Okay, Mona preferred the lower seats. She said
so I don't fall backward.
Yeah.
We have a real show.
All right, perfect. Okay, so we talked about bait.com, we talked about Mumzworld. So part of qualifications, Mona, she is also a mom of 3 and 3 boys. That could be pretty nasty at times. I have a boy and a girl, and I can trust me, the boy is always the tougher one. Okay, so Mona is the CEO and founder of Mumzworld. Mumzworld.com. Make sure you put it in your favorites. Has proven to be one of Middle East's most prominent of women and entrepreneurs. Beyond leading a successful and growing SME, inspiring her employees and communities, Mona is on a mission to change the region one mom at a time. Okay. All right, so I recently also heard that Mona, you also received a 20 million funding in Saudi Arabia.
In Dubai.
In Dubai, okay.
For the region.
For the whole region, okay, excellent. Well, can you tell us a little bit more about it and things I might have missed about Mumzworld?
So this is actually our 6th funding round. We've raised now $50 million. So for the world of e-commerce, that's a lot of money.
Awesome.
And that allows us to build the way we want to.
Excellent, $50 million, okay. Yeah. All right, so...
That's the B round.
Yeah, excellent. So this is round B?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Mona, I'll start with the basic questions, the ones we usually have, okay? And I know you were in the US at one point in time, right? And you started your career in the US?
That's right.
Okay. Why did you end up choosing Dubai? Why did you come to Dubai?
So I started my career, wow, that's loud. Can you hear me clearly? I shot myself.
I think the problem is that I'm too loud. Yeah.
I started my career in FMCG, first with a company called Procter & Gamble. And then after Procter & Gamble, I moved to Johnson & Johnson. So I was based initially out of the United States, and then from the US, I came back to the region, which is home. And then I moved to Europe. And I was based in Europe in 2000. And I got a call from my brother. And my brother had graduated from Stanford University. He came back to the region. He started his first business, and he exited his first business. He sold it to Aramex after 2 years. So he was an entrepreneur by DNA. Mm-hmm. So he called me one afternoon while I was at J&J and said, I want to revolutionize recruitment in the Arab world. Back then, what was happening is a lot of Arabs, like myself, were leaving the region. They were getting great educations, they were working abroad and never coming back because of this perceived or this perception that the region did not have opportunity. The reality is the region had a lot of opportunity, but connecting job seekers and employers together back then was very difficult. It was the time of the internet bust. People were running away from the internet, and we had the opportunity to change that. We had the opportunity to bring back great talent to the region and connect job seekers and employers together in a faster, easier, and more effective way. So for me, when Rabia called me with this vision, I was, as most entrepreneurs, I was inspired by the impact story. I was inspired by the ability to create positive regional impact, to come back and be empowered to create change. And that's really what I did. I packed my bags, I went to my boss, I told him I'm resigning, I'm going back home, and I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Now, just for perspective, I was at the time heading a franchise out of Europe. I was spending 1 week in Milan, 1 week in France, 1 week in Paris. I was living the high life. So my boss, his name was Massimo, an Italian gentleman, looked at me and he said, "You're crazy. Why would you leave this to go and enter a world that's unsure, that's uncertain, and that's risky?" And my answer back then is very similar to the answers I always give today, and that is I'm driven by the story, by the vision, by the impact, and that's really the start of my entrepreneurial journey.
Excellent. And this is the time when you started Bait.com?
Yes.
Okay, and this is when exactly?
2000.
2000, excellent, very good. So how did you start from Bait and then ended up to Mumzworld?
Sure.
What's the story? What's the connection there? Yeah.
So at Bait, I had my children. My first 2 boys were twin boys, and my third boy was another And as a mother, I experienced firsthand the frustrations that the mothers in this audience can probably relate to. There were key need gaps in the region that were not being met for mothers like myself. Access to choice of quality products was limited, prices were very high, information about the product for a mother who is information starved was lacking, and access to these products when I wanted them in a very fragmented market was difficult. So I basically wrote a business plan, and I wrote the business plan in June of 2011. And the business plan was head in the clouds saying, I wish there was a place that I can go to as a mother where I feel empowered, that I'm doing the absolute best for my children that I can, that I'm accessing the best products at the best prices, delivered to me quickly and seamlessly, and that I'm making the best choices for my children. Because if I'm empowered as a mother, then my children are empowered, and we create change. So that's really how the plan came about.
So Mumzworld, so it's an e-commerce website?
Yes.
But you guys could also sell at other e-commerce websites. Is that true? Or?
So we are an online marketplace. We carry over 200,000 products. We work with over 1,900 brands. And these brands are retailers, distributors, wholesalers, manufacturers. So we are the largest go-to destination for mothers to access products, and we are the go-to destination for global brands that want to reach regional customers.
Okay, excellent, very good. So I guess what I really want to get into is what were the skills, right, that you had learned at Bait.com? Of course, started at Johnson & Johnson, and then at Bait.com, what were the skills? And that's HR and recruitment. From recruitment to a completely different business, what are the skill sets, I guess, you developed there, which you took over to Mumzworld?
So, in every job I had, the reality is the skills I needed to succeed at Procter & Gamble, at J&J, at Bait, and at Mumzworld were very, very different. And I'm not talking marginally different, I'm talking extremely different. So I essentially, with every job change, I would bin my previous skills and learn afresh. Why is that? The world is changing, the world is fluid, e-commerce is very different than the service digital world, that's very different than FMCG, J&J is very different DNA than P&G, so the skills vary. But I'll tell you the single overlap that I had that took me from one job to another and allowed me to succeed from one to the other, and that is less a functional skill, but more a character skill. And the first character skill, and this is something that I teach my children, is the desire to learn. In the early days of e-commerce, I knew nothing about e-commerce when I started Mumzworld. So what would I do? In addition to reading, to talking to people and teaching myself, I would interview people who were experts. So I would get a digital marketeer and sit him in front of me or sit her in front of me, and I would say, teach me about SEO. And the person who taught me the most was the one I would hire. So not only would I hire the expert, but I would also learn in the process. So this is really how we built our expertise. We would hire people better than us, who knew more than us. And then we would become better because we begin to collect data points. So the ability and the desire to learn is a skill that I had from the beginning. The other thing is the desire to do things that others don't want to do. So I don't know if my husband's in the audience. He is in the audience. My husband told me something this morning, which was, I think, very interesting because it resonated. Yesterday I took my son to his swimming class in the evening, and in his swimming class I was working. And I was tired yesterday. And so my husband said, you know, you're the only person I know who, even though you're tired and you want to rest and want to just sit back and have your coffee, you still worked. Because that was the right thing to do. So for me, I've always had the belief that if you do things that others don't necessarily want to do, then that will serve you. So that's the second thing. And the third skill really is being able to attract people who inspire you and who you can learn from, and it's a two-way street. So these are the three skills that I think I've taken from point A.
What skills have you learned from
my husband?
Your husband. Is he an entrepreneur too?
He's not. He's not an entrepreneur. Is
there a mic here, or
so
you
he's
can pass it on to him?
So he's an entrepreneur. He's not. His career is not that of an entrepreneur, but he is certainly an entrepreneur in his mindset and in the way he thinks. And I think our entire household is entrepreneurial in the way we live our lives.
Okay, excellent. So I guess, and you also mentioned, or I've heard about, you've got kids,
Yes.
okay, and 3 boys, and their names were again?
So there's Sufyan, Tarek, and Yusuf.
Tarek and Yusuf, excellent. So I guess, how do you manage all of that, right? And then also manage this business and travel and all of that. How are you managing all of that together?
So it's very difficult. I think mothers who say they can balance 100%, I mean, I'm not one of them. Every day is a reshifting of balance to reach equilibrium at the end of the week. And I've said this before, for me, it's important that I have equilibrium, and I gauge equilibrium at the end of the week. So today, for instance, I'm late here, which means that we're not having dinner with the children. So tomorrow I need to make it a point that I do have dinner with the children. So it's the balance, the shift in balance that has to happen, and in a certain period of time we reach that equilibrium. But it's not easy. It's very difficult. Last week I was in San Francisco for 24 hours. I flew 17 hours, I had my meetings, and I flew back 17 hours. My children didn't feel my absence, but I felt the toll. But then I wouldn't travel next week. So there's always that, but it's not easy and it's not for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess, what is the unique opportunity that you see in the Middle East? And I know you touched upon that a little bit, but I guess, now let's step outside Dubai. So we could be in Dubai, but what does Saudi Arabia, what does Egypt bring to the table? And what kind of opportunities?
So this region, first of all, is a very wealthy region. There are 350 million people. 7 out of the 10 key markets here rates top in the world in GDP per capita. So there's high expenditure, there's very high YouTube, internet penetration. If you take a look at Saudi Arabia rates number 1 in YouTube download per minute. Smartphone penetration in UAE and Saudi are the top in the world. UAE is ranked number 1, Saudi is ranked number 6. So wealthy population, large population, high birth rate, higher percentage birth rate in the GCC compared to other developed countries, and there's investment money now moving in this direction. So this is a very rich region for opportunity, and best of all, there's a gold mine of need gaps, consumer need gaps that have not been tapped. So for a person who is entrepreneurially minded, who's customer-centric, who can identify these need gaps and bring them into an actionable business plan, there's a lot of opportunity.
So I guess, Mona, what do you think Mumzworld does differently than maybe competition, or at least in, let's say, a retailer like Mother Care or anybody? What do you think you do differently that makes it a place where moms should be going to?
So that's a brilliant question. So we launched Mumzworld with the simple vision of empowering mothers to make the most informed purchase decisions for their children. How do you do that? First of all, you give mothers access to the widest choice, so she can search, compare, and buy from the largest choice of products in one place. That's the first. Second of all, you need to give this mother transparent pricing, so she feels 365 days a year that she's not being cheated, that she's really getting the lowest end of everyday low pricing. I'm not talking about deep discounts. I'm not talking about inflating prices to drop them. I'm talking about legitimate, authentic, everyday low prices that are transparent. That's the second thing. Third is information. So I have 3 boys, and guess what? I never buy my boys the same toy or the same book or the same shoe. Every child is different. So what we want to do is we want to give mothers authentic, real, bilingual information. I mean, this is an Arabic region, so we need to respect the culture and respect the fact that more than half the population here is Arabic. So giving mothers comprehensive information that's objective, where she can make informed decisions. That's a third. Fourth is a customer experience that delights her, that surprises her, that really delivers and exceeds what she expects. So how do we do things differently than competition? Now the reality is, in Dubai, as in everywhere else in the world, you're going to have legitimate competitors and you're going to have copycat competitors. What's the difference between the two? A legitimate competitor will come into the market and say, you know what, Mumzworld doesn't have enough party items, so I'm going to launch a party site. So they find a unique differential advantage that's customer-centric, that customers want, and they go do it better and faster. And that's great. And there's a place and there's a need for legitimate competitors. So we work, by the way, very closely with a lot of the legitimate competitors. You mentioned Mothercare, Toys R Us, Just Kidding. These are all fantastic, viable competitors, but they have niche propositions. We cater to a much wider audience. We cater to a wider catalog. We have 2.5 million mothers, so we are a much bigger scale business. And then you have what we call the copycatters. So the copycatters come and they say, I'm going to do exactly what Mumzworld is doing, or exactly what Mothercare is doing, or exactly what Toys R Us. And these guys compete on price. The reality is, when you compete on price, the customer loses, the business loses, and the ecosystem loses. Because the reality is, I can't buy this for 10 dirhams and sell it for 5. I can't do it. Because if I do it, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to cheat you somewhere else. If I'm going to buy this at 10 and sell it at 5, that means I'm going to try somewhere else to get the 5 back. So what Mumzworld does very transparently is we say we always price on the very bottom end of the spectrum for us to be a viable business. That's what we do better. We have the widest range. That's what we do better. Our delivery is what we do better. Our community, we have 2.5 million mothers who engage with us on a daily basis. That's what we do better. We're building the indispensable online extension of her life. This year, 2019, you're going to find a lot of periphery line extensions that a mother needs and wants, like subscription for her diapers, like a community that extends, like the baby registry, and a host of other services that mothers have asked us for that we will deliver as a vertical.
Yeah, the subscription model, I mean, makes perfect sense, right? Because every time, especially with Pampers, you go into the grocery store and you're looking for, oh, I can't find the right fit because I don't have number 3 or number 4 or whatever. Really cool stuff. Okay, so what resources, I guess, you already had, or connections through family or anybody else in Dubai that you were able to utilize, or when you landed here you didn't really know a lot of people? What's your story there? And how can, if you do have connections, how can you leverage that?
So one of my greatest advantages, I would say, as an entrepreneur is connection to friends and family. And I can't kind of overstate that. So when I came back to the region with my brother, who I admire, I respect, I trust, and started Bait with him, I came blind, eyes blind. It was okay because I trusted him and I admired him and I respected the way he worked. So that made it easier. So when you make a decision with someone that you trust, the risk is minimized automatically. Strengths complemented each other. So my strength were his opportunities and vice versa. So with Bait, I would say we were initially 6 founders. All of us were very connected. We all had strengths that complemented each other. So starting Bait was actually easier than Mumzworld. And the reason for that is Mumzworld, I initiated the business plan, the co-founders then came on board. So having that initial kind of 6-man team didn't exist at Mumzworld. So that's what made the journey a bit more difficult in the beginning.
Okay, excellent. Just with a show of hands, how many entrepreneurs, so people running a business today? Excellent. How many want to become entrepreneurs? Interested in stories. Okay. Any Infi residents here? Very cool. Okay, excellent. So we do have a nice mix, which is great. Okay.
Okay, so let's move on with the interview. I guess top 10 lessons you, I guess, must have learned in Bait, and then how you use them to in Mumzworld.
Top 10 lessons.
Yeah. Or I mean, you can do top 3.
Okay. The first lesson is nothing beats hard work. What you put in, you get out. So hard work, good old-fashioned hard work is really the prerequisite to everything. It is definitely, the quality, but you have to put in the hours. You have to put in the hours. When I wrote the business plan, and we were vacationing initially, we had a 2-week vacation with the family, and I would run to the bathroom with my computer and work so that my children wouldn't see me work. When they would go diving in the sea, I would get my computer out and I would work. When they were having dinner, I would run to the side and I would work. I was working all the time. And I was being very creative about it. So I was working creatively so that my family didn't see that they were compromised. So putting in the hours is absolutely essential. Right now, it's 8 years into Mumzworld. I can safely say out of a 24-hour day, I work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I do. So I'm always working. But for me, it's not a chore, it's not a task, it's not a burden, it's something that I've signed up for. I have signed up. I've made a commitment to our customers, to our shareholders who put in money with us, to my family, to myself. It's a commitment, and I've signed up for it, so I need to take it and do the best I can. So hard work and hours is really essential. Second thing is, and I've said this in practically every interview I've given, and I really believe this: great people build great teams, not so great people build not so great businesses. It's the great people of Mumzworld, it's the great people of Bait that have built the businesses to where they are. We hire A players, we hire entrepreneurs who are ambitious, who are self-starters, who are seekers of positive regional impact, and they run. Not everybody succeeds. Not everybody survives that. Some children, when you throw them in the deep end, they'll, swim and get out. Others will not. Others will need help. So for us, we've been very, very lucky that we've had fantastic people at Mumzworld who have gotten us this far. I am one person out of today over 150 staff. So it's certainly not me who has gotten us to where we are, and it certainly is not me who will get us to the next level. It's the fantastic people. So that's the second thing. The third thing is do things for the right reason, not always the easiest thing. So when I left my corporate career and came back to the region to start Bait, it really was the hardest decision I've made probably ever, I would say, because it was leaving a trajectory that I had worked on building for many, many years and pivoting to something very different and very risky. And the reason I did that was because I wanted to live a life that would create some level of positive impact in the region that is home for me, and this is home for me. So do things for the right reason. When you do things for the right reason, I believe good things happen. And then fourth is work authentically and with integrity.
Very good.
In today's
Excellent.
world, it's easy not to work authentically and with integrity.
Excellent. Now, did you come from a business background, or your family was also entrepreneur?
So we're Palestinian.
Okay.
My father was an entrepreneur, my grandfather was an entrepreneur. I think it's in our blood. We are nomads. So yes.
Excellent, excellent. Now, do you think, many of the guys here, do you really think we need an MBA, start up a business? Do we really need to go to school, start up a business? Or, I mean, there's always positive stories about dropouts and somebody leaving school and making it big. I mean, what's your view on that?
There are no rules. You can be an MBA and you can do great things, and you can be a dropout and do great things. It comes down to who you are as a human being and your character. So we've hired MBA consultants, Ivy Leagues, and we've politely asked them to leave 6 months later. And we've hired, young, hungry people who are just very ambitious, and they've done phenomenally. So there are no rules.
Okay, very good. Initially, when you started up Mumzworld, I mean, did you have any partners? And
Yes.
You did. Okay. How do you end up choosing those partners? What's the process?
So I think that's the most important decision you make in the early days. So after your business plan is kind of signed, sealed, and delivered, your next adventure is, who can I bring on board who is going to sit next to me, these 18-hour days, 365 days a year, and I'm going to still like 5 years or 10 years later, and still respect and still admire. So with Bait, with my brother, it was easy, because you can't ever, say, I don't like you. You're stuck together. But maybe that's not always the case. So with Mumzworld, I called 3 people that I knew and I admired and I trusted. Out of these 3 people, one of them is still with us, and the other 2 stepped down 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So I'll talk a little bit about that. So the one who's still with us, my strengths are her opportunities for improvement, and her strengths are my opportunities for improvement. We fight every day, about everything. We disagree about everything. And we actually laugh. Yesterday, she actually sent me a text message saying it was about me, basically. And the message was a t-shirt that says, I love coffee and only 3 people.
Okay.
And I told her, and this was after our kind of debate earlier, which is very true. So it's healthy debate, and that's AI, in robotics, in digital, so things that we knew in healthcare, things that we knew even 5 years ago will likely be obsolete in the next 5 years. The jobs that we knew, education that we knew is changing, is shifting very, very fast. And in this time of revolution, for a person who's, I think, entrepreneurially minded, this is the time to say, okay, what does the future hold, and where can I kind of place my mark? Where can I be at the forefront of this revolution? That's the first thing. The second is, in this part of the world, and I said it earlier, the need gaps are many. Many customers have frustrations that are not being met. So if you can identify a real, true pain point of a customer and figure out a way to solve it effectively, cost-effectively, through a business model that makes sense, then this is something that you should explore. And then capital. Again, if you can access capital in a smart way, I think you should do it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Mona. Interesting talk. I think I know that there's a lot of people today, so there's a lot of interest in asking questions. Can I request the volunteers to please help us out with the mics? And then who's got the first question? Okay, the gentleman over there, and then we with this lady over here.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for an incredible story and for sharing that with us. My question is with regards to e-commerce in general. Where do you think the industry itself is going? For a long time, we've been like, okay, e-commerce is going to blow up any time now, and soon, and it's still about like 2% as I read of retail sales are e-commerce. And it's not at the level of the US, where it's already 9-10%. UK is, I think, even much more beyond that, or Asia. At the same time, there's other models of e-commerce emerging, stuff like multi-channel retail stores and bricks and clicks, as they call it, or social selling websites, or the integration of social networks and e-commerce and such. So where do you see the market going in this region, and do you expect like a boom to come or something to come so that we get up to that level of some other major cities?
So e-commerce is a $1.6 trillion industry. It's growing at a 29% compounded annual growth rate. The fact that less than 2% of retail is online shows you that the massive upside opportunity in e-commerce. So if it's going to just catch up to the next region, you're talking about billions. So when we launched Mumzworld, e-commerce was valued at around $2 billion. It's estimated to be valued at $200 billion by 2022. So it's moving at that pace. Exponential growth, and it's the kind of industry that we haven't seen that type of growth in anything. Now, the reality is e-commerce will morph into m-commerce, into AI, into all of the elements that will ultimately allow a customer to receive immediate gratification. So the customer of tomorrow will want to click on a button while she's in her car for her diapers and have it wait for her at the door when she arrives home 12 minutes later. That's the customer of tomorrow. The customer of tomorrow will want to go online and without even searching, will want to open her desktop or her mobile, more likely her mobile, and just by her browsing history, have that website actually tell her, hey Muna, your son has a world challenge in 3 days, you forgot to buy his football. We're delivering your football in 24 hours. That's the customer of tomorrow. So, and that's happening as we speak. So for us on a website, the element of AI, the customization, the personalization, all of that is happening. So Mumzworld today is very different than it was a year ago, and Mumzworld in a year from today will be very different as we begin to adapt to, again, give the customer immediate gratification.
Excellent. Lady over here.
Thank you. Hello. That's okay, leave it. So my question is, I have a learning and development business, and it's very much focused on interpersonal skills, human interactions, and how human work together. We connect. I don't think this is working. Human connect to each other, and the interaction that goes on between humans. I'm thinking about taking this online and trying to build an e-learning platform. I would like to know the obstacles you see with getting this from one-to-one interaction into an online platform, please.
The challenges are, as I mentioned earlier, first of all, the capital to do it. So just it's kind of if you visualize the digital world. So if I have a store that's a brick and mortar store, and it's in Mall of the Emirates, I just basically have to open the door of that Mall of the Emirates shop, and everybody who goes into the mall is going to come past my shop. I do nothing because Mall of the Emirates is driving traffic today, tomorrow, every day. I do nothing. I just sit there in my shop and I accept visitors. I'm telling it to you in a very simplistic way. If I open that same shop in the virtual world of digital, the endless virtual world, where you are a drop in a bucket, in order for you to drive people to your drop in the global virtual cloud, you have to have AI technology, you have to have a personalized technology, so you have to have super smart technologists behind your platform. So this is, I would say these are the three most important, and the fourth and the last one that I'll mention is the governance or the setup. So what's your vision? Is your vision to eventually sell that company, to build it and sell it? In which case your governance has to be one that is sellable. So if you start a company that is a DED license, it's less sellable than if you start a Cayman Island company or some kind of offshore company. So these are the legalities that you also have to think about.
Thank you, Mona. Before we go to the next question, I actually do have a question out of my own selfish interest. Social media marketing, right? So you're hearing people, influencers on social media, on Instagram, talking about, for example, baby products or other different things. How much is that influencing, I guess, e-commerce marketing? And you think is that another channel to Mumzworld, or
social media?
Yeah, social media. Yeah.
So social media is great. It can help you a lot, and it can destroy brands, because it takes one vocal person who doesn't like you very much to go out there and go on a rampage on Google, on Facebook, on Twitter, and people love rampages. People love to join the bandwagon of negativity. That's human nature. So the reality is you're more likely to comment on something bad than you are to comment on something good. It's human nature. So the answer to your question is social media has great benefits, but also social media has risks associated with it. So you just have to know how to manage it.
Perfect.
And again, it comes back to authenticity. I mean, this is what I always say. Brands are not perfect, just like people are not perfect. Brands make mistakes, but it's very important that brands are authentic and tell it as it is and are transparent. So if a brand delivers a late delivery, you have to come clean and say, I failed this time, but I'm going to learn from that mistake and I'm going to fix it next time. As opposed to, no, I didn't fail, or I'm going to delete that comment, or I'm going to hide that comment. So you have to be authentic.
Gotcha. Perfect. Thank you, Mona. Next question here, and then we go to the rest.
Hey, thanks for the talk. I actually started a men's grooming subscription bulk service. The question I had was in the early stages for investment purposes. It's not known that convertible debt and safe notes are not really well known in the Middle East. So what would you recommend for a startup in this very early stages to fund them? How would they fund themselves?
So convertible notes are becoming more popular here, and that's a good idea. If you can get a convertible note where you kind of build a bit of momentum and then define your valuation later, that's actually a good thing. I always personally shy away from any type of debt per se, where you have to repay that debt, because look, at the end of the day, startups, 99% of startups fail. That's a reality. And they fail after the first year. Another 99 fail after the second year. So you don't want to go down the road of debt. So convertible note, if you can convince someone and say, okay, look, I've gotten some strong unit economics now, but in a year from now, my unit economics are going to be better. I'm looking at this kind of number. And if I get that number, that's my valuation, and that's when you kind of convert the notes.
Okay.
Most important thing I would say always is build unit economics. If you can build good unit economics in the early days and have a good story, you can raise a seed round fairly easily. Do that before the convertible note if you can, if you have good unit economics.
Okay. And there's a few more questions. I know one lady's been popping up again and again, her arms tired.
Sorry. Hi, Mona, this is Farah. So I'm a fellow P&G alum like you, and I've been an entrepreneur for about 9 years now. I'm very curious to see, because you talked a lot about AI and robotics and how the landscape is changing, not just in online, but even in retail. I was at this Dubai government strategy seminar 2 days ago. You must have been invited as well. And they were talking about how they're investing in accelerators to boost brick and mortar and retail. So they're actually looking for innovation in that space. I was wondering what a company like Mumzworld does to stay relevant. Like at Procter, I know they have a separate innovation lab. So what is your mechanism? Do you just hire new people constantly? Do you always have to keep your eyes open, or do you have a dedicated innovation team?
So we do have a dedicated innovation team. We have a head of innovation who's actually in this room. And I'm not going to point at that person. So look, you have to constantly innovate and be relevant, because that's what the customer deserves. And 10 years ago, the rate of innovation was not as fast as it is today. It's not. So today, the need for personalization, the need for AI, the need for product offerings that a mother wants and the mother's asking for, because technology is allowing you to deliver on these faster than ever before, as a brand, you have to constantly be reinventing yourself and innovating. And I think Mumzworld has done a great job over the past 8 years in constantly being, we have been pioneers in all of the mother, baby, and child extensions in the region, in all of them. We were the pioneers in our space, we were the pioneers in the subscription, we were the pioneers in the baby registry, we were the pioneers in the catalog, we were the pioneers in our community of 2.5 million mothers. We are the largest community of mothers in the Arab world. So we continue to pave the way in innovation, but we are nowhere close to where we want to get to. So the road ahead is still a much bigger one. I mean, the way we envision it is in the next few years, mothers should be able to come to Mumzworld as the indispensable online extension of her life. So everything that she needs for her very important motherhood journey, she can find under this umbrella.
Okay, next question. Over there. Okay, you too. We have a few. How much time do you have, Andrew? All right, so we can take a few more questions.
Hi, thank you so much as well. It's amazing to hear kind of your thoughts and give such inspiration as well to budding entrepreneurs. But I'm thinking, so I'm currently in a corporate job at the moment and thinking to do my own business. Obviously you've gone through that struggle and kind of deciding whether you want to go down the corporate route or down the entrepreneur route. Do you have any regrets at all about leaving the corporate world? Because obviously I'm sure you've still got friends and things in corporations, and that's what I have as well. And would you have done anything else differently to the journey you've kind of taken? And would you ever think about going back into corporate?
Okay. So I would never go back into the corporate world. I'll start with that. There are no regrets, but every person is different, and every person has to do what's right for them. So I joke sometimes, and I would say my entrepreneurial journey I would not wish on my worst enemy. But yet I would take it again and again and again because that's who I am. The corporate job is a lot easier. You get paid a lot more, and there's this false perception that entrepreneurs are super wealthy and they're living it up. The reality is, entrepreneurs, because they're a bit crazy, don't even think about the money. I mean, not all of them, but I mean, it's the first 5 years, every penny we made in the business, every penny went right back into the business. Every penny. We became almost Scrooges. If we're going to spend on ourselves, that's terrible. We have to put it back to the customer. We have to put it back to the shareholder. That's the way you think, because you're building a vision. So it's a lot harder. You work a lot more. You really have to be driven by a story.